Hey, Jarek here, and I finally got a green screen. That means I can put stuff behind me like this, or like this, or like this.
Dark eye.
No, not that. Vertigo Remastered is one of the best Half-Likes I have ever played. No, one of the best video games I've ever played. It was a surprise hidden gem that I wish more people got to enjoy. I've been looking forward to Vertigo 2 for years, and I'm happy to say it far exceeded my expectations. The dev truly understands what makes this subgenre of shooter tick, even advertising the game as a Half-Like.
The game is what nerds like to call a half-like, a game taking after Valve's classic Half-Life series. The Half-Like genre is tragically underexplored, as they take more time to develop than the more popular Doom and Quake-inspired shooters, which have seen a renaissance in the recent years.
So, we did it, I guess? Half-Like is just the official name of this style of shooter now? Not that I came up with that term, it's the obvious thing people are going to call it. But Half-Life is the direct inspiration for this game. In fact, the dev worked as a contractor at Valve, so if anyone outside of Valve would understand, it's him.
This is a lot to take on for a single developer. Zach's pretty qualified, having worked as a contractor at Valve on the Index, Moondust, and the Lab, and of course having shipped Vertigo 1 before this.
This game has quite a few bits of Valve fan service. Hell, there's even a short Portal ripoff as a bit.
Hello, and welcome to the Assembly Testing Sector. You have been randomly selected to undergo additional testing before security deployment. You may proceed to the test chamber when ready.
Thankfully, there's not too much fan service to be annoying, and the entire world is extremely original, to the point of being downright bizarre. What isn't bizarre is today's sponsor, because that's Into the AM again. Love these guys. Into the AM makes a bunch of really comfortable clothes. Their shirts are the most notable. I say this every integration, I wear these things everywhere. Doesn't matter if it's mountain biking, just at an event, like a monster truck event, if I'm at a trampoline park, if I'm just messing around hanging out in my own house.
Seriously? It hit the door frame. Good job.
Their clothes are really comfortable, that's the main reason. They're very soft and they stretch. They have a ton of other clothes, pants, boxers, coats, hats. So if you want any of this stuff for yourself, go to intotheam.com/dragonshirts and this will give you 10% off site-wide. And this stacks on top of whatever bundle deals they have going. They have supported this channel for a long time. It's great working with them because I'm talking to an actual person instead of a third-party marketing rep. They want to help the channel, and also they make good stuff, so everyone's happy. Huge thanks to Into the AM for sponsoring this video, and now let's go back to the bizarre world of Vertigo 2. Vertigo 2 is a direct sequel, so the story takes place right after the first game. You play as the same silent protagonist. You don't have legs, but you do have an upper torso. If your arms in real life are longer than your arms in game, the arms in game stretch. This may seem jarring, but I personally never noticed it. The other solution is to have a disconnect between the lengths of your arms in-game and the length of your arms in real life, resulting in you not reaching as far as you think you would, which is way more immersion breaking. So I think how Vertigo does this solves this problem nicely. Simple, but effective. Now, I want this video to be positive because I really enjoyed this game, so I want the video to be as positive as my time playing the game. But allow me to rant. Every time there's a first-person shooter with a female protagonist, a small but loud minority says they literally won't play the game because they can't play as a man or at least have a gender choice. In VR, I would understand if it was because of gender dysphoria, but those aren't the people complaining. Instead, these are the types that say they won't play a game because the devs have pronouns in their bio. I look like your generic dude. I'm bald, I have a beard, I like metal, I like monster trucks, I like basketball. Not that these guys give me much to be happy about right now, but I enjoy how I look and it fits my personality. I wouldn't want to change. Even so, in VR, when I look down and instead of seeing this, I see tits, that doesn't ruin the game. Shut the hell up and judge the game on the actual game. Barring the occasional Samus, women have had to play as male protagonists for decades. If you say you won't play a game because you can't play as a man, then women are stronger than you. Okay, sorry, moving on. Your personal goal in Vertigo 2 is to escape this bizarre facility full of aliens. The overarching story is a lot more complicated, so much so that I think it's best to explain its format rather than read the storyboard. Each chapter will be something new, almost like a self-contained story along the way that still flows seamlessly into the next chapter. This is something that every Half-Life game does. Half-Life 1 has chapters like Blast Pit, where this giant tentacle beast blocks your path. Your goal now focuses on whatever the hell this thing is, instead of escape. Half-Life 2 has chapters like Ravenholm, dripping with atmospheric storytelling about the atrocities in a forgotten city crushed by the Combine. Half-Life Alyx has Jeff, another instance of a new creature blocking your path, this time changing the gameplay in an even more drastic way than before. Vertigo 2 does the same thing time and time again. In this city, you are thrusted into a civil war. You are given the choice between a church oppressing the town or the rebels. Easiest choice of your life, right? Oh wait, these are literally communist robots. There's even an in-game reason as to why they're using old tech and claiming Soviet culture.
I suppose you may be wondering why we are speaking with Russian accents. When our rebellion began, we needed a cultural identity to rally around. And well, we are robots, built 25 years ago to mindlessly kill aliens. We have no identity besides the church, and that is what we're trying to cast off. So when we found a junk hard drive containing historical records from the Soviet Union, we constructed a movement in its image. A perfect counter to theocratic monarchy, no? But the most valuable thing on that hard drive was the schematics for various Soviet weapons. Primitive human weapons, yes, but simple enough for us to build them ourselves.
Your goal now is to help the rebels take over the church. The game's main menu even changes after you complete this chapter. All those religious robot guards are destroyed. All of this is seemingly unrelated to the overall story, but it flows so smoothly that you don't even notice, and it's a reward on its own. Every chapter will introduce you to new, interesting characters with fitting voice actors to boot. Gianni even voices one of the main antagonists? He was the perfect fit for the required comedic timing of this character.
Is this a blood vessel or something?
This is where I get to talk about the environments. The world that has been created here is just so bizarre, with so many weird creatures and alien lands. I wanted to look at everything. I even felt like there was other inspirations in these environments. This sequence reminds me a lot of Turok Evolution. This part in particular. The area around the tree reminded me a bit of Ocarina of Time. Obviously, the facility as a whole is inspired by Half-Life. It doesn't rip anything off, instead it just has familiar tones, and that could be total coincidences, and I'm probably just looking too far into them. All of this ran extremely well. It doesn't look as good as a AAA title, of course, but keep in mind, this is VR. There aren't many AAA titles to begin with, and VR is more intensive. So areas this large running this smoothly on my index is a good sign. As for gameplay, it's a massive step up from the original in every way. It doesn't play it safe. I think the dev assumes that VR has found its niche. The user base at this point probably has their VR legs. Vertigo just isn't the type of game that would sell VR to first-time consumers like Half-Life Alyx does. That said, the gameplay is very similar to Half-Life. It's a linear story-driven FPS. The real upgrades from the first game are the sheer upgrade to the enemy and weapon diversity. The first game was a little limited in your weapons, and they all basically function on a cooldown instead of a reload. Vertigo 2 has a more typical weapon sandbox, all with unique reloading mechanics. Actually having to mime out reloading in VR will always be more satisfying and adds a lot to the combat loop. These weapons can also be upgraded. You can turn your revolver into a makeshift sniper. Your shotgun can become stronger and have a tighter pellet spread. It will probably become the workhorse of most players. I mean, it is the shotgun. Once you beat the game, you can even start a new game plus, allowing you to start the game all over with all your guns so you can keep upgrading. Enemies will be slightly buffed to compensate. Hell, there's even unique weapons depending on the side you choose in that Rebel Uprising level. Since I chose the Rebel side, I got some Soviet weapons. In the repeat playthrough, I could choose the other side. This would be a good time to mention there's multiple endings. I won't say more, and I don't want to spoil the absolutely bonkers story. Along with the regular upgradable weapons, there's also secret weapons that you may or may not come across. I only found 2. They're hidden well, so be sure to look around. The one complaint I have is kind of a big one, albeit somewhat infrequent. The difficulty is all over the place. This game goes from an easy exploration of a bizarre universe to a mild challenge where you have to at least pay attention to not die to holy fuck, there are enemies spawning all around me and the boss can literally hit me through walls and my health is instantly disappearing. I think it's a really telling sign when a low health warning starts flashing at 50% instead of the usual 20 to 30%. The damage you take is bonkers and feels unfair at times. And to be clear, a hard game is not a problem. An inconsistently difficult game is. If the game was consistently hard and you didn't want that, then you could just leave it on easy and not worry about it. To be honest, this isn't exactly the style of game that most people want to play if they want a challenge anyway. So, yeah, I think a bit more playtesting and tweaking is needed for certain combat scenarios, especially the bosses. I would either one, try them without breaking a sweat, or I'd be forced to put it to easy mode. There was no in between. And again, these moments were very rare considering how long this game is, but a couple of those moments are enough to stick in your brain. One of which wasn't even difficult, it was just not fun in my opinion. They give you a boat in this huge open ocean, awesome. It's a defense section, woo. Not only is it a defense section, but you're having to defend your boat while they're throwing mines in front of you and trying to shoot at you, and they throw a lot of these mines. This also just goes on for way too long. This was the one section of the game where the whole concept of it I didn't enjoy in some way. There was just so much more you could have done with this boat. Why do a defense section? But again, these moments were really rare, certainly nowhere near problematic enough for me to be soured on the game as a whole. In fact, Vertigo 2 is easily in my top 5 VR games of all time list. But no game is perfect. This is still a Game of the Year contender for me. It's one of those games where you consistently badger your friends to play it, just so you can see them play one of your favorite games. If you have a VR headset, this is absolutely a must-buy. If you don't have a headset, both Vertigo games are genuine games that will hopefully give you enough reason to try VR out. I mean, if you've watched up until this point, you either have interest in VR, own VR, or you just like watching my videos, and I appreciate you. In fact, here's my channel members. Huge thanks to my channel members for supporting this channel. They get to see my videos ahead of time, so if you want to join, there's a little join thing down there. Wait, no, I have a green screen now. It's, there. Here, I'll just move myself where I need to be. Huge thanks goes to Into the AM for sponsoring this channel. If you want to try out some of these shirts for yourself, try out. What am I saying? Like you're going to rent them? No, if you want to buy some clothing, go to intotheam.com/dragonshirts to get 10% off site-wide. Huge thanks to everyone that joined me over on Twitch. If you want to follow my Twitch or subscribe over there, there's a link in the bottom right. My Twitter handle is down in the bottom left if that's your thing. So check that out. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you next video.